Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to do a little one-off reaction video. If you guys have heard, you must have seen JPow. He talked to Congress these past couple days, and there were some absolutely golden clips that I just wanted to share with you all. This first one with our genius Senator Warren. I'm a little late to the party. I'm sure everyone's already watched this, but I still want to take a look at it. And then there was one from earlier today that was also great. And I just want to take a look at it because it is just great how JPow handles these completely moronic, unqualified, numbnuts, just zero brain people that ask him these questions that are just so, like, it's as if they don't even think about things when they say it. It's so crazy. And I found it fascinating. I think you guys will all agree. So let's just jump right into it. This is our Congresswoman, Elizabeth Warren. I'm sure you have all heard about her. She's really good at her job. Let's just say she is fantastic at her job. She makes about, I think, what's the Senate wage? Yeah, look at that. Makes about $174,000 a year. What's Elizabeth Warren's net worth? Oh, well, how about that? 12 million. Whoa, net worth $67 million? Shit, man. Can she give me some stock tips? Does she know? What the hell? Her salary's 300 grand and she's making what? Bruh. She's really good at her job. So let's see what she has to say about our economy, which she really can relate with. She really can relate with the middle class with that kind of net worth, right? So let's see what she has to say about the Fed jacking up interest rates, trying to tackle inflation. Let's see what she has to say.
So the Fed has raised interest rates 8 times over the last year in what has been the most extreme rate hike cycle.
God, her voice is like
in
nails on a chalkboard.
Years. The Fed's goal is to slow inflation, and your tool, raising interest rates, is designed to slow the economy and throw people out of work. So far, you haven't tipped the economy into recession, but you haven't brought inflation entirely under control either. And maybe the reason for that is that other things are also keeping prices high, things you can't fix with high interest rates, things like price gouging and supply chain kinks and a war in Ukraine.
All that true. The Fed's only tool for inflation is interest rates and their balance sheet, the quantitative tightening, which no one really talks about, but so far they've rolled off like $600 billion worth of shit off their balance sheet. But the interest rate hikes is like going into surgery with a butter knife. It is a very broad way of doing things, but it's all they got. It's all that the Fed can do. Congress, if they wanted to up people's taxes, if they wanted to implement other ways of tackling inflation, they totally could. We know the Democrats aren't going to do any kind of actual... I mean, they did the, what was that stupid act, the Stop Inflation Act or whatever, that did absolutely nothing. They thought they would be able to stop inflation by spending about $500 billion in a bill. Also, that Build Back Better bill, that was about $3 trillion we didn't need at the end of 2021, the best year ever for the economy. Anyways, outside of all that, and mind you, I'm not some conservative wacko. I am more so just none of these people in Congress, Republican, Democrat, none of them give a shit about anyone. They're all about stuff in their own pockets. That's my point of view. So don't think I'm just like, yep, F the Dems. That ain't me. But it's true that interest rate hikes are a tough way to tackle inflation. It just causes pain. It's kind of like chemotherapy, you know? The cancer is in your body, and it's really hard to target the cancer with the chemotherapy without hurting the healthy cells around it, if that makes any sense. I'm no freaking doctor, but that's kind of the way it is, unfortunately. Congress, she could write up a bill to jack up everyone's taxes, to start the student loan paybacks, or resume student loan payments. She could do that. That would be disinflationary. The Democrats are never going to do that. They're never going to do any of that shit, obviously. The Republicans never will either. They just want to get reelected over and over and over again, like Elizabeth Warren here. But they like to shit all over Powell because he's the face of it. So let's get it. Let's get into it.
You're determined to continue to raise interest rates, so I want to take a look at where you're headed. In December, the Fed released its projections on the state of the economy under your monetary policy plan. According to the Fed's own report, if you continue raising interest rates as you plan, unemployment will be 4.6% by the end of the year, more than a full point higher than it is today. Chair Powell, if you hit your projections, do you know how many people who are currently working, going about their lives, will lose their jobs?
I don't have that number in front of me. I will say it's not an
just a math
intended
problem.
consequence. It's
Well,
not,
but it is, and it's in your report, and that would be about 2 million people who would lose their jobs. People who are
2
working
million
right
people
now
losing their
making
jobs.
mortgages. So, Chair Powell, if you could speak directly to the 2 million hardworking people who have decent jobs today, who you're planning to get fired over the next year, what would you say to them?
Oh boy, that's a lot. That's a lot to talk about here. All right. Now, macroeconomics is obviously not her strong suit. I don't know what is her strong suit, basically. She's one of the more progressive senators, obviously. I mean, up there with Bernie, up there with the AOCs. So and it's true. JPow will never say that. He's never going to come out and say, yes, we want everyone to lose their job. We want millions of people to get unemployed, to be on unemployment. He's never going to say that, but it's true. It's true because paying for 2 million people losing their jobs is better than hyperinflation that causes pain for hundreds of millions of people, or at least 100 million people, the entire middle class. She can't even comprehend the pain that 10 years, if we have inflation this high for the next 10 years, it would just, the pain for the middle class, the unemployment that would come from that would be even higher than the 4% that she is talking about right now. She just can't even comprehend the pain that would cause. So yes, he is trying to get people to lose their jobs. They will never say that. They'll never admit that. If you watch my channel, I say that all the time. But that is exactly what he wants to do. Because paying for those 2 million people is obviously better than paying for the entire middle class, which, as we've seen from these past couple years, is evident. Nobody can afford a house. People are just going into debt. They're just waltzing into credit card debt. Their savings are evaporating. People are having to come back from retirement to get jobs because they can't afford shit, because they thought they saved up enough to retire 5 years ago, but their money's just getting eaten away by inflation over and over and over. So she can't even comprehend the pain that they would cause for people who have retired, who have a set income outside. I mean, Social Security ramps up, but your 401k doesn't get any bigger if you've already retired. That money just keeps losing value over and over and over, unless you own a house, which a lot of old folks don't. Then you're paying rent. That just gets more expensive. Your groceries get more expensive. Your healthcare inflation, by the way, is crazy. It is just skyrocketing. All these things are piling up. So she is just completely misrepresenting what is happening. I mean, it is criminal how blunt she is being, how obtuse she is being right now. It's just crazy. Let's continue. JPow, he comes. I mean, he's just sitting there. He's sitting there like, oh God. He knows the second she starts talking. He's like, here we go. He did this last year. He did the same thing. She tried to grill him the exact same way. Let's watch.
They need to lose their jobs.
I would explain to people more broadly that inflation is extremely high, and it's hurting the working people of this country badly. All of them, not just 2 million of them, but all of them are suffering under high inflation, and we are taking the only measures we have to bring inflation down.
And putting 2 million people out of work is just part of the cost, and they just have to bear it.
Well, will working people
Yeah.
be better off if we just walk away from our jobs and inflation remains 5-6%?
Let me ask you about what happens if you do this.
So she just completely ignored. This is what she always does. It's crazy how she can be so. Oh my gosh. She always, every time somebody claps back, she just ignores and just continues on. Just keeps going down as if they didn't say anything. Like this guy, JPow, does she have any idea who she's talking about? Like, it's crazy. This guy is the most powerful guy in the country, arguably, outside the president. And, I mean, that doesn't mean that they have to throw him softball questions. I think he should get grilled every now and then. But at least do it in a way that makes sense with some logic, dude. She just is so fucking dumb. And she won't answer that question, of course, because he's got her. It just checkmated her. Yes, obviously, this middle class that you are trying to represent is going to get destroyed by inflation. It already is. I mean, nobody can buy a fucking house. You have to make about $250,000 a year to afford a house right now, especially, where is she? Let me look. Let me see. Let me see where Elizabeth Warren. I believe she's from Massachusetts. Yes, she is. Let's look at Boston, for example. Average house. Ugh. Oh my god, I can't type. That was embarrassing. February 2023. Wow, $849,000. Huh. Really good. Wow, that's great. Yes, inflation should stay high. 6.3% year over year. So the housing market slowed down pretty considerably last year, but the prices of a house in Boston still went up 6.3%. Does she understand that's unsustainable? Like, is she out of her fucking mind? Like, what, the middle class? Where's the middle class? I mean, that was the American dream, was buying a house. That was the one part of the American dream that actually was real. Now you can't even fucking do that. The American dream is dead. Who's affording a house in Boston now? She just it brings chills down my spine, dude. Let's continue.
End of World War II. There have been 12.
So she
remains 5-6%.
Let me ask you about what happens if you do this. Since the end of World War II, there have been 12 times in which the unemployment rate has increased by 1 percentage point within 1 year. Exactly what you're aiming to do right now. How many of those times did the U.S. economy avoid falling into a recession?
You know, it's not as black and white as very
Just
very
looking
infrequent.
at the numbers, it actually is pretty black
Alan
and white.
Blinder's written a book on this, and
There have been 12 times
She's
that we've
just
seen
not
a
even letting him
1 point
talk.
increase
Oh
in
my
the
fucking God.
the unemployment rate in a year. That's exactly what your Fed report has put out as the projection and the plan based on how you're going to keep raising these interest rates. How many times did the economy fail to fall into a recession after doing that? Out of 12 times.
I think the number is 0.
I think the number is 0. That's exactly right. So then the question becomes, we've got 2 million people out of work. Can you stop it at 2 million people? History suggests that the Fed has a terrible track record of containing modest increases in the unemployment rate. Once the economy starts shedding jobs, it's kind of like a runaway train. It is really hard to stop. In fact, in 11 out of the 12 times that the unemployment rate increased by a full percentage point within 1 year, unemployment went on to rise another full percentage point on top of that. If that's what happens this time, we'd be looking at least 3.5 million people who would lose their jobs. So, Chair Powell, if you reach your goal and 2 million people get laid off by the end of this year, and then, just like in 11 out of 12 times that unemployment has risen by a point in a single year, it keeps on rising. And then we've got 2.5 million people out of work. We've got 3 million people who get laid off. We've got 3.5 million people who get laid off. What's your plan?
Well, right now the unemployment rate is 3.4%, which is the lowest in 54 years. And we actually don't think that we need to see a sharp or enormous increase in unemployment to get inflation under control.
I'm looking at your projections.
Oh my gosh. This is crazy. I mean, this is just crazy. This was one of the most pro-COVID lockdown people. She should know about causing unemployment to skyrocket. Now, I know everyone talks about COVID. No one knew that COVID wasn't going to be as bad as it was. Everyone overreacted. Everyone got sent home, which she was happy to just pay them to get to sit at home to make more on their couch than they were making at their real job, which, that didn't cause any of the inflation. Let's not talk about what actually causes inflation. No. She would not want to talk about that. She would never want to talk about that. She is just the worst. She's just like, well, if you look at here, pal, we should be now. If you ask her, she'd probably just say the government should send everyone a check every week for like $300. To her, that would be the best way. These people just don't understand economics. This is unfortunately the system we have. This is easily the best economic system in history. I mean, easily. It's the best for the most people by far out of any other civilization in history is capitalism. Unfortunately, this is the way it works. It is a balance. She is just like, it's crazy. She's advocating that they just keep rates low so no one loses their jobs, so inflation just stays high. She doesn't even think about the negative impacts of inflation. It's like, what the fuck? What? Huh?
Do you call laying off 2 million people this year not a sharp increase in unemployment?
I would say 4.5%.
Explain that to the 2 million families who are going to be out of work.
Like, what how fucking dumb can she possibly be? This is like such a, I know she's smart. I don't know, she went to Ivy League. Where did Elizabeth Warren go? Graduated from, I believe she went to Harvard. University of Houston. Rutgers Law School. Okay, she ain't Ivy League. But she's smart. She's a lawyer. She passed the bar. She's not this fucking obtuse. She is this obtuse because she has to be, because that who's the audience she's playing to. But this is just egregious. I mean, if I was Powell, I would just be like, all right, let's leave. Everyone, Elizabeth Warren says we should leave inflation at 6%, and it'll just figure itself out, not by anything she's going to do. She wants to spend more money on everything. If it was up to her, everyone would be getting free checks. The CARES Act just would have gone on and on and on. And then the dollar 10 years from now will not buy you anything. It'll be $30 at McDonald's for a cheeseburger. I mean, this is just fucking crazy. These people are in Congress. This lady is the worst. And that is just, I'm glad that it was I saw this all over on Twitter, on TikTok, people just completely clowning on her. Like, there was nobody even trying to defend the shit she's saying right here. It's just crazy. She just embarrasses herself in a national scale. Like, I love it. I love when she just puts herself out there and just exposes herself to everyone. Not exposes herself. It's terrible. But just shows how dumb she is. It's just wild.
We're not targeting any of that. But I would say even 4.5% unemployment is well better than most of the time for the.
Yeah, of course. That's another thing. Thank you. JPow is just a genius. If you look at unemployment, I mean, you would say that after the financial crisis, once things start to normalize, I mean, by about 2015, unemployment was still at like 5.5%, but we were still getting out of that recession. 2017, things were good. The recession was in the background. Let's look at the S&P. What was the S&P doing in 2017? Look at 2017. Wow, what a great year for the S&P. With unemployment, was at about 5% right there. 2017. Yeah, we're sitting at about 4.5%. So 4.5% unemployment is not that bad. It really isn't that bad. Before COVID, I mean, that was a normal thing. 2007, 2006, I mean, post-dot-com bubble, when the market was great, it was roaring, 2006, it's sitting here at 4.5%. That wasn't a bad thing. That is not a recession. This is post-recession. This is the recovery from the recession. So she is just the worst. Everything she says is bullshit. It's crazy.
You don't have a plan to stop a runaway train if it occurs. Chair Powell.
Inflation is the runaway train. It is the runaway train. Can she look at any data from the 80s? Can she fucking even look at the 80s? What do you think caused the unemployment in the 80s? The Fed was part of it, but the inflation caused it to go over 10%.
Oh, you are gambling
Holy shit.
with people's lives, and there's a pile of data.
Gambling with 2 million people's lives is better than gambling with the entire middle class, over 100 and some million people. Just
showing the price gouging,
just
the
wild.
Supply chain kinks, and the war in Ukraine are driving.
What should JPow do about the price gouging or the supply chain kinks? The supply chain kinks have fixed themselves for the most part. What the fuck? That's your fucking job, lady. You're the lawmaker here. Oh my God. I'm sure if JPow could say whatever he wanted, he would just obliterate her, make her cry.
We cling to the idea that there's only one solution, lay off millions of workers. We need a Fed that will fight for families. And if you're not going to lead that charge, we need someone at the Fed who will.
She should be the she should be the Fed president or the lead. Oh my God. Fighting for the millions of families. You're fighting for families' inflation, their checks to get eaten up, 6% of their money to just go poof year over year, for families to never own a house because the house where she lives costs over $1 million. That's not a problem for her. She could buy 8 houses if she wanted to. Oh, all right. That's enough from her. Now we got Miss Presley here. This is from today. She is a famed member of the squad, as I'm sure many of you know, AOC's little gang, the real brainiacs in the fake progressives, as I like to call them, because they rarely vote for progressive measures. They almost always vote with Nancy Pelosi, but they love to act like they're progressive. So let's see what she has to say.
Thank you, Chairman Powell, for joining
This
us
is a
today
good
for
one.
your testimony. I'm going to focus my comments and my questions on the high costs that families in my district are seeing because of your interest rate hikes. Now, while the Fed has acknowledged that higher interest rates are not the primary driver for the slowdown in price increases, you continue to raise interest rates, risking not only millions of jobs, but also a recession. Based on projections from the Fed, approximately 2 million people will lose their jobs. So that's 2 million families who will
She's
struggle
parroting
to keep the table, keep
Liz
their
Warren.
head.
Did she not see the reaction from everyone on Twitter on everything about how idiotic Liz Warren sounded? And now she's doing the exact same thing. I love it. It's crazy.
Against me.
It's like she got the
The
script.
economic hardship does not end there. Mr. Chair, I would like to request unanimous consent to submit a recent paper by the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland titled Post-COVID Inflation Dynamics into the record.
Without objection.
Chairman Powell, are you familiar with this publication, yes or no?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Well, let me give you some context. In this paper, the Fed's own economists predict that reaching the 2% inflation goal that you have set will be impossible without causing a recession and spiking the unemployment rate to 7.4%, which translates to millions of working people losing their jobs. Now, Chairman Powell, many economists agree with me when I say that engineering a recession to bring inflation under
Unemployment going up to 4.5% is not a recession. It's normal. Unemployment below 3.5% is inflationary. It always has been. Always has been. Look, pre-COVID, unemployment was at 3.5. Do you think CPI was going up a little bit? I think it might have been. Look at that. That wasn't inflationary back then. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. All right, you got me there. But it wasn't even this low. It's even lower than it was back then. How about in 2000s? Oh, yeah. It was 2000s. It was back in 2000. It was back in 68 when unemployment, or this is right where the inflationary cycle started back in 60. Whatever. Let's just continue.
control is not the right strategy, especially at a time when we are seeing inflation cool in real time, independent of your rate hikes. So on behalf of the people of this country, to prevent a recession, yes or no, Chairman Powell, will you pause future interest rate hikes?
So fucking. They don't want him to talk. They just want him to be a puppet. Can you just? I've set up my trap. Can you walk into my trap for me so I can really zing you in front of my progressive friends so they can, all the folks on Twitter will cheer my name. Can I just zing you? I don't want to hear you say anything else. Yes or no? Really? You're going to fucking, this guy, you're going to have him come up there and ask him a stupid question like that and be like, you can only answer yes or no. Oh my God.
A recession, and we don't think we need to have a recession to get price
Respectfully,
stability back.
will you pause interest rate hikes, yes or no?
She doesn't want logic.
Yes or no on will I pause interest rate hikes? Yeah, that's a serious question, and I can't tell you because I don't know all the facts. That's not a
Reclaiming my
possible.
time, and in fact, it is a very serious question because it has a very serious implications. The people who will bear the brunt of an economic recession are our most vulnerable. We know from past experiences that recessions have catastrophic and deeply inequitable consequences. In fact, while some will catch a cold, Others will catch pneumonia. But you know that. An economic cold or pneumonia. In fact, in your opening statement, you said,
I don't know why this video is
we
so
will
quiet.
stay the course until the job is done. To conclude, we understand that our actions affect communities, families, and businesses across the country. Could you elaborate?
God, this is painful.
What is this
This is
effect
painful.
to communities, families, and businesses, these interest rate hikes?
Well, right now, we're trying to bring down inflation on behalf of all those families. I think high inflation is hurting, particularly working families all around the country, very badly. And as you know, if you're on a very limited budget and you don't have a lot of excess earnings, when prices start going up, you're in trouble right away. People, middle and upper middle class people have more resources. So we think it's absolutely critical for the working people of this country that we get inflation back under control. And also, while we're at it, we have a dual mandate.
Apologies,
and
Mr. Chair, I'm just reclaiming my time here. Here's the thing.
Fuck
the most
her.
de-
Oh my God. Enough of your logic. Let me ramble on my stupid questions,
devastating
please.
impacts will be to our most vulnerable. Veterans to our most vulnerable. Veterans, the elderly, low-income workers, black and brown workers, those who have often ignored and been neglected in the name of what you refer to as appropriate monetary policy.
She didn't just go there.
And yet,
She's bringing out the
you
elderly and
assert
veterans.
that you will stay the course. It's unconscionable, and our most vulnerable workers and families cannot afford to wait for you to realize the harm that you were doing. In my opinion, this sounds more like the assertions of a greedy corporation than someone who has a public mission
Really?
on behalf of the people of this country. So, one more question with my remaining time here.
She's not even asking questions.
Chairman Powell,
She's
another
just
consequence of your interest rate hikes has been the
rambling.
increase of the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate to 6.6%, double of what it was 2 years ago. Do you see this widening inequity in the housing market as a problem? And what steps will you take to make housing more affordable? This is putting home ownership further and further out of reach.
Oh my God.
For
No
my
shit. No
constituents,
shit it is.
parents,
No duh. No one can afford a house. Why do you think that is? Inflation. Oh no, it's the mortgage rates that are making them unaffordable, guys. Not the fact that housing price of a house like doubled over 2 years from COVID till now. No. That's not why anyone can afford a house. It is because of mortgage rates. She's acting as if, God, this is so hard to watch, man. I don't know why I even thought this would be a good idea. No, I love it. This is great because it's just embarrassing these people are even in Congress. But she's acting as if a house was affordable a year ago or 2 years ago, pre-high mortgage rates, when they still weren't. They've become more unaffordable, but they weren't. It's not like we were at affordable housing costs and now that JPow is raising interest rates, now houses have gone down. Let's do some research. Where do you think she's from? I wonder where she's from. Massachusetts, 7th. No way she's from Massachusetts, too. Wow, Massachusetts is just a dummy factory for these people in Congress. I wonder where that is. No way. She's a representative of Boston, which, look at this gerrymandered-ass district. What is that, dude? She is the representative for Boston, where a house costs $879,000. You cannot make this up, dude. You cannot make this up. Why do you think housing is so unaffordable, dude? Why? What? You can't make it up. You just cannot make it up. That's what I would, if I was JPow, I would be like, how much does a house cost in your district, ma'am? Can anyone afford a house? Do you know how much money you have to make to be able to afford a 30-year mortgage on a house that costs $900,000? You have to be making like about $300,000. Like, no joke. It's unbelievable. This lady is so out of touch. Her district, she is representing these people who have to pay $900,000 to own a home. Like, the American dream is dead in Boston. How are you ever going to afford a house, dude? Oh my God. And she is out here talking to Powell as if he's the reason why no one can afford a home. Oh, That's rich, dude. That is rich.
Parents, millennials, people of color,
Oh yeah, parents,
contributing
millennials.
to inequities and the racial wealth gap. So what are your thoughts
Racial
on
wealth
that?
gap.
Well, our policies do
Gentlemen,
affect.
gentlelady's time's expired. Chairs can submit for the record or answer.
I'll briefly say that if I can, that our interest rate policies affect interest-sensitive spending very directly. When we cut rates, they help housing. When we raise rates,
Yeah.
you see the effect on housing.
Thank you.
Gentleman from South Carolina.
Well, he went pretty easy on there. I mean, he's supposed to represent himself as being not like conservative or liberal. He's supposed to be a unbiased, just does she say something too? Oh, I bet she says something real
All
good.
for being here. All for being.
Another squad member. But he's supposed to be unbiased. He's not supposed to be a part of any political party. So that's his thing. That's why he's not just going to roast these people and be like, you're an idiot. It's your party's half the problem right now. But that's what deep down he really wants to say that. He's like, why do you think this inflation fucking started? I know he caused some of it, but damn, you people signing these bills are causing a lot of it, dude.
You don't like yes or no's, but if you were sent $1 trillion coin and
All for being here.
So Rashida Tlaib, another squad member. I'm sure she has some good
Now
questions.
recognize the gentlewoman from Michigan, Ms. Tlaib, for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chair Powell, for being here. You have a lot of economic, projections, economic projections, various data, various reports that are
she's
coming
from
out.
Detroit.
How much, and you've studied inflation, right? I mean, obviously, it's your number one priority right now. How much is inflation impacted by these three things? Corporate profiteering, egregious executive pay, and the use of stock buybacks.
He doesn't control any of those three things, so I kind of see what she's doing. She's kind of throwing him a bone, being like, yeah, a lot of this is caused by corporations. So I'm not even going to watch the rest of this. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm sure she says some great things. She's one of these squad members too, so she's got a real good head on her shoulders. But that is true, but it's not his job. So I don't know if she's asking him this to be like, well, why don't you tell the corporations to stop buying their shares of stock back then? I don't think that's what she's trying to do. Maybe she is. If that is, then she's an idiot because this guy doesn't control any of it. That's up to you. You're the lawmaker. You do that. I just thought this was interesting. If you guys enjoyed, consider hitting the sub button, hitting the like, drop a comment if you enjoyed this. I know I don't ever do reaction videos, but this was just too hot to handle. I had to talk about this because I watched this clip and it was just fascinating. It is sad that these people are in Congress. This is a person of power, Tlaib's one of them, but this other lady, Presley, from the great state of Massachusetts, her and Warren, boy, are they just... This is the people running the country. This is how we got here. These people are like, wow, 2 million people losing their job. That sucks. Can you tell those 2 million people how they're going to feed little Billy at dinner time? Well, Miss Elizabeth Warren, would you like to describe what 6% year-over-year inflation would do to the country for the next 10 or 20 years? I can't, bro. I can't do it. Anyways, guys, I'll see you later.